What's up, everybody? It's Pino here from Get Wisdom. What if there was a way to make your success automatic? Well, there is, and in today's video, guys, I'm going to be sharing with you the 5-step financial favor, financial freedom framework that all you got to do is apply this framework to your life, and you can begin to see financial favor and financial freedom become automatic in your life. Here's the thing, you don't need more motivation. You don't need more inspiration. You need a framework, and that's exactly what we're gonna be talking about today in the training. Let's get into it. How many of you here would like to see success become automatic? I'm talking about like you are automatically successful at whatever you do, whatever you put your hand to just kind of seems to turn to gold. Anyone here wave at me like this or drop some fire emojis down in the comments? Well, I have incredible news for you, okay? In order for your success to become automatic, you can't rely on motivation, okay? You can't rely on inspiration, because how many of you here know that inspiration and motivation come and go with the wind, right? One day you're motivated, one day you're not. One day you're inspired, one day you're not. You know what's better than motivation and inspiration? I will tell you what's better. Systems, frameworks, and discipline, okay? Systems, frameworks, and discipline. Why? Because when you have systems in place, I don't know if you've ever heard me say this before, but I say it over and over and over again because it's just true, guys. Systems produce similar results for everyone who follows the what? Let me know down in the comments. Systems produce similar results for everyone who follows the system, right? And when you have a system or a framework set in place that you have established through discipline, now you don't have to wait for a moment of inspiration or a moment of motivation, okay? In fact, I love how, I believe it was Mike Tyson who said it like this: discipline is doing the thing that you hate like you love it. What? That's real discipline. And how many of y'all know if you have the desire to see freedom and favor in your finances, then you need a framework and a system that is instituted through discipline, okay? So one more time, let me see by show of hands or drop some fire emojis down in the comments. How many of you here are ready to grow your money and your finances to outrageous levels? If that's you, wave at me like this or drop some fire emojis down in the comments, okay? Guys, let me break down the 5-step framework, because honestly, it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, boy, or girl. It doesn't matter what niche you're serving. It doesn't matter if you know your niche yet or not, etc. When you plug your thing into this framework, everything changes for you, okay? Everything changes. Somebody in the comments say everything changes, all right? Guys, we're gonna jump straight in. If you're ready for step number 1 of this 5-step financial favor framework, drop a 1 in the chat and let's do it, okay? The very first thing you need in order to see that financial favor unlocked in your life, the very first thing is you must have belief. You know, it's really interesting. When my wife and I were at the beginning of our financial and business and prosperity journey, something very, very important had to happen for us. And how many of y'all can guess what that is? We had to actually believe that it was possible. Like, think about this. Like, if you don't believe that becoming a millionaire is possible, well, I'll never become that, then it's not possible for you. But you have to believe. Somebody in the comments say believe. You have got to believe that this is possible. Like, this is step number 1. If you have the desire to see financial freedom and financial favor, then it has to begin in the belief system. Because I don't know if y'all have ever heard me say this before or not, but I'm trying to teach y'all that your income will never outgrow your mindset or your belief system, right? Shout yes in the comments, y'all. So in order for your finances to grow, in order for your financial favor and your financial freedom to grow, guess what else must grow, guys? Your belief. Like, as long as you believe that $1 million is a lot, it's going to be really hard for you to try to hit $1 million in your business, period. As long as you believe that the price of gas and the price of eggs is bigger than your God-given potential. Oh man, gas is so expensive. Oh man, eggs. Oh, the cost of everything's going up. Oh, I'll never be able to afford that. As long as you believe all of those limitations, then guess what's going to happen, guys? That is going to be your limit. So what you need to do is you need to start unlocking your belief. And one of the best ways to do this, if you're taking notes, write this down, is in Mark chapter 9. Watch this. Can I break it down for y'all? Somebody in the comments say, break it down, Uncle Rick. Let's go. Mark chapter 9, verse 23 says it like this. See, this is a scripture that a lot of believers love to quote and they love to talk about, but we forget the first part of this, okay? So this is the portion of scripture where it literally says, all things are possible to him that believes, okay? And everyone loves to like sing about it and clap about it and have little conferences about it, like all things are possible, all things are possible. But there is a prerequisite to this actually becoming truthful for you. How many of y'all want to know what it is? It's the very first part of the verse, and this is Jesus talking. Jesus said it like this: if you can believe, then all things shall be possible. So I need you to write this down, okay? If you can believe, then all things will be possible. You have got to have the belief first. Can I tell y'all another story? Somebody in the comments say, drop it, Uncle Rick. Watch this, guys. So this is interesting, okay? A number of you guys and gals here have heard, but my wife and I, we've been able to have a $1 million day. You know, like God has blessed us in our businesses. It's become very common for us to make six figures in a day. It's not every single day, but it's very common for us to be able to make six figures in a day now. And the most that we've ever done was just under $1 million. The most we ever made in one single day was $970,000 in one single day. Okay, so $1 million in a day. Not too shabby, right? Now here's the crazy part, okay? How did this happen for us? Like, how did we get to this place where like $1 million in a day? This is insane, right? Well, the way it happened for us is we had joined a business mentorship program, and everybody in this community, it was like we were used to hanging out with business minds and business entrepreneurs who are like trying to get to like 50 grand a month, 100 grand a month, which is still awesome, right? But then we switched rooms. We got into a new room. If you're taking notes, write it down like this. New levels many times require new lanyards. Whoa, you got to get in the room, baby. You got to get in the room. And so we leveled up. We paid one of our coaches multiple six figures, and we went and got in the room. I didn't know what to expect because I thought we were doing pretty good. We were doing, 100-ish K a month at that time. Like, well, not too shabby. We get into this room, guys, and there are not just one, not just two, not just three. There are multiple people in this room talking about their $1 million day. And multiple of them were receiving $1 million in a day awards. And not just that, there were 3 gentlemen in the room who had just received their $5 million in one single day award. And we were like, huh? Like, what is happening? What? Like, if you're taking notes, write it down like this. Exposure always leads to expansion. Why do you need to continue to get in the room with like-minded, like-hearted people? Why do you need to continue to connect with your coaches and your mentors? Why do you need to stop having broke conversations and start having rich, wealthy, prosperous, abundant conversations? Because when you become exposed to what is possible, like what does it mean exposure leads to expansion? That means the more you see it, the more you can't unsee it. Like, I went from like, well, we're doing pretty decent, like 100K a month, not too shabby. And then I get into a room where people are saying $1 million, not in a year, not in a month, in one day. And not just that, 3 other gentlemen, like $5 million in one single day. And I was like, what is happening? My mindset, my belief exploded and expanded to the next level. And can I tell y'all what happened? 2 months later, somebody in the comments, say only 2 months later. Only 2 months later of being exposed and seeing something that I didn't know was possible, but now I got into a room where not only was it possible, but it was normal. My belief was expanded, and guess what? Just 2 months later is when me and my wife made $970,000 in one single day. Somebody in the comments shout, belief, 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 belief. My question to you, the biggest thing you need to get right, guys, is do you even believe that it's possible? Do you even believe it's possible? Like, I know so many of us, especially those of us coming from like ministry backgrounds, missions backgrounds, church backgrounds, etc. For whatever reason, it's frowned upon to have the desire to become a millionaire. Well, we're not that greedy. We don't blah, 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 blah. Like, no. It's not possible until you believe. And how does it get unlocked in your belief? You got to start thinking about it. Like, man, like for my wife and I, the way it started was we started thinking like, man, it'd be pretty amazing to become millionaires. In fact, not only would it be amazing, but we believe that this can happen for us. Somebody in the comments one more time, shout believe. See, many people think they have a problem doing the thing, but most people's problem is believing that it's possible. That one's a rider downer. Most people believe the lie that they have a problem doing the thing, but most people's problem is actually believing it's possible. Like, do they actually believe that they can replace their income with digital products? That's my question to you. Do you believe that you can replace your income with digital products? Do you actually believe it's possible? Do you actually believe it's possible to become the first millionaire in your family? That's what I was able to do, not in any power of my own. God helped me, but guess what? It started in my belief. Do you actually believe that it's possible to create enough wealth for you, your children, and your children's children? Do you actually believe it's possible? If you can believe, then all things will be possible. I need you to pay very close attention and focus deeply on this question that I'm about to ask you next. Because this question, if you really wrap your understanding around it, has the potential to change everything for you. Are you ready for this question? Lean into the camera. You ready? You ready? What if the only impossibility in your life was that something was impossible? What? What if the only impossibility in your life was that something was impossible? Guys, number one, if you have the desire to see financial favor and financial freedom in your life, none of it will happen until you first and foremost get your belief system right. If you're ready for step number 2 in the 5-step framework, drop a 2 in the chat. Let's keep going. So now that you've got your belief system right, now that you've examined Mark chapter 9, verse 23, if you can believe, then all things will be possible. Okay? Now that you've got your belief system right, what do you need next? I'm glad you asked. Now that your belief is setting in, guess what needs to follow your belief? Your behavior. Now that you have the belief locked in, what needs to happen next? Your behavior needs to change. Like, here's what you need to understand, okay? Every person on this planet has 2 minds. How many minds? Two, every person on this planet has two minds. You have a conscious mind and you have a subconscious mind, okay? The conscious mind is responsible for what you say, but the subconscious mind is responsible for what you do. In fact, I'm going to write it on the board so you can actually see it in front of you, okay? So the conscious mind is responsible for what you say, but the subconscious mind is responsible for what you do, okay? Everybody tracking so far? If you're tracking, drop some fire emojis down in the comments. So what does this mean here, okay? Many times I tell this story from time to time. I think it's such a powerful story, but let me share with you guys a very quick story on the power of changing your belief system, okay? There was once a tiny acorn that lived on a windowsill. Has anybody ever heard this story before, right? For those who haven't, let me tell it again, okay? There was once a tiny little acorn that lived on a windowsill, and every day he would look out the window, and right across the field was this beautiful forest filled with gigantic, beautiful, amazing, majestic oak trees whose branches reached up towards the heavens. And something on the inside of this little acorn knew that he was created for more. And every day he would look out this window and he would get so stirred up with excitement. I don't know how, I don't know when, but man, I know I have greatness on the inside of me to do something like that. And every day the little acorn would look out the window and he'd get excited and more excited and more excited. But over time, his hope grew deferred because he was in a position where he just didn't know how to do it. He knew that there was potential there, but he didn't know how to unlock that potential. So day after day, the excitement slowly turned to sadness, to hope deferred, to depression, until finally one day he's looking out the window and he just loses it. Just loses it, starts crying and making a big scene. And he's crying and crying and crying, so much so to where a little sparrow hears the sound, hears the ruckus, and flies over and lands on the windowsill and says, "Hey buddy, what's going on with you?" And the acorn looks at the sparrow and goes, I just, every day I look out this window and I see those beautiful oak trees, and something on the inside of me tells me I'm built for more and I have more potential on the inside of me, but I just don't know how to do it. And the sparrow looks at him and he says, "Hey buddy, all you need is to get into the right environment. Would it be okay with you if I picked you up from this windowsill and planted you in the right environment?" And so the acorn says, "Well, sure, that's a great idea." So the sparrow takes up the acorn, flies him across the valley, plants him in the forest, and you guys know the rest. Over time, the little acorn grows up into a beautiful, majestic, incredible oak tree. Here's the punchline, guys. It's one thing for you to consciously say you believe it. It's a whole different reality for your subconscious mind to believe it to the point where your actions start changing and you start getting into the correct environment. And here's the thing, if you're like, "I don't have a correct environment," create your own. There is one thing that I refuse to allow into my household. There's many things, but one of the things I refuse to allow into my household is I cannot stand when somebody says something is expensive. I will not tolerate if somebody says we can't afford it. It's not, we will not tolerate it. We will not say it's so expensive. Instead, we will say, how can we afford it? And if somebody says, "Oh, that's so expensive," guess what my immediate reaction is? Nothing is expensive. Why? Because the environment that I am cultivating is one of belief, and listen, you and I both, we have been raised and brainwashed in society, in culture, in church, in religion, in limiting beliefs our whole entire life, to where our conscious mind goes, oh yeah, we're blessed, we're highly favored, but because we've only said it, and we've not changed our behavior, we've not been in the right environment, our subconscious mind knows better, like, you don't believe that. You could say it all you want, but you don't act like it. Here's my question to you, and if you're taking notes, write it down like this. Ask yourself this question: are you acting like a wealthy person, or are you acting like a broke person? Are you acting like a wealthy person, or are you acting like a broke person? Can I give y'all some insight? You might be sitting here going, well, Rick, I'm not where I desire to be yet in my wealth yet, so how is that possible? I understand. I'm also not where I desire to be yet in my wealth, but can I give y'all a little secret? Long before my wife and I ever became multimillionaires, we begin to act like multimillionaires. In fact, when we were first starting out, before we had businesses, before we had money, when we were still quote unquote living by faith, I would force myself to put premium gas in our car, not because I was just trying to be crazy, but because I was pushing myself to go to the next level, even though I hadn't stepped into the next level. What was I doing? I was training my subconscious mind to believe, and please hear me, guys, I'm not talking about like manifestation. I'm not talking about like New Ageism. I'm talking about when you can train your subconscious mind with your actions, then guess what happens? It goes into automatic, like autopilot, bing. That's why unsuccessful people, they experience heartbreak and, scarcity and poverty on automation, because their subconscious mind always puts them back into the loop of the same broke patterns. And that's why people who are successful, it's like everything they touch, it just flourishes and it just prospers. It's Psalm chapter 1. When you're planted by the river, you will flourish and bear fruit in every season. You'll be like a tree who's planted by the water, who literally bears fruit nonstop. Why? Because you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. How many of y'all know there's a big difference between being an action taker and an action talker? You got to get in the right environment, and if you're like, I don't have the right environment, create your own. Are you acting like a wealthy person, or are you acting like a broke person? Let me ask you another question, and you should write this one down and ask yourself this as well. Are you having wealthy conversations every day, or are you having broke conversations every day? Can I tell you just a vulnerable story? Can I be vulnerable with you guys for a moment here? Really interesting. So probably 4 or 5 years ago, I went through a season. My wife and I had really started to come into a financial prosperity and wealth, and we were like really starting to figure this thing out. And I got hit with like really bad anxiety. This is like 5 years ago. And the anxious thoughts were coming from this place of like, oh my gosh, like I'm becoming one of the wealthiest people, me and my wife are becoming the most wealthiest people, both in her family and in my family. And I'm like middle-ish age now. I'm almost to middle age. I'm like 40, right? So I'm like a little less than halfway there, God willing, who knows, right? But I'm like getting up there, and we're some of the youngest in her family. So her parents are going to get older. My parents are going to get older. And I started spiraling down this place of like, oh my gosh, I'm probably going to have to take care of everybody on both sides of the family. How are we going to do this? And I was getting so anxious. And I never forget, I was talking to my therapist at the time. Thank God. My therapist was the sweetest old lady. She was probably late 70s, early 80s. And just by God's providence, she also was a believer. So I'm talking to her, right? And I'm telling her all these anxious thoughts, like I'm just so anxious, because God's entrusting wealth and prosperity to me and my wife, but I feel like I'm gonna have to take care of everybody else. And she asked me a couple of really important questions. She said, number one, honey, and she was like kind of Cajun. She had like a little Cajun accent. She goes, number one, honey, you ain't the Lord, so it's not your responsibility to have to try to provide for everybody. You ain't Jireh. And I was like, girl, you are absolutely right. But then she goes, number two, and she goes, and as you understand that you're not God, so it's not your responsibility, she goes, instead of thinking of it as your responsibility and it's bringing all this anxiety to you, why don't you change your perspective and start seeing it as your privilege? And instead of having a burden of, oh, I have to take care of everybody, she says, why don't you level up? Like this 80-year-old woman say, why don't you level up and figure out a way to where you can have the privilege of taking care of everybody? Guys, this little amazing 80-year-old therapist woman expanded my belief system to where I was like, you know what, girl, you are absolutely right. Why am I thinking so small? Like, why don't I have the ambition to create everybody in our family as millionaires? Like, why not? And it literally boom. Why? Because instead of focusing on the lack, instead of thinking like a broke person, right? Because we were still new into wealth. So I was still coming out of some of those mindsets. Now I begin to learn how to think in abundance. If you're taking notes, write this down and ask yourself this question. Are you making choices that a wealthy person would make, or are you making choices that a broke person would make? Are you making scarcity choices? Oh, what if we don't have enough? Or are you making abundant choices? There is more than enough for everybody to have more than enough. And after everybody has more than enough, there will be more than enough left over for everybody to have even more than enough. Which one? And then lastly, if you're taking notes, write this down, ask yourself this question. Are you acting out of scarcity or are you acting out of abundance? Guys, now that the belief is there, don't just talk about it. Oh yes, I believe. Start acting it out. Even if you're not there yet financially, start pushing yourself. Start filling up your, if right now you have to put the cheapest gas and you only put $5 a time, start where you're at, right? So maybe next time you go to put gas, fill up the whole entire tank. That might be a big step for somebody, right? Or maybe if you're already filling up the tank, go to the medium grade instead of the lowest grade. Push yourself, man. Right? Next time you go to the grocery store, instead of buying off-brand everything, go buy name brand, not for the sake of trying to flex, not for the sake of I'm just, Rick wants me to be flashy. No, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help you train not just your conscious mind, to train your subconscious mind that you are already wealthy. Because if you can train your subconscious mind, not just to hear the words that you believe it, but to start believing through action because your behavior has changed, because you're in the right environment, guess what's going to happen? Your subconscious mind is going to start going into a new autopilot and success is going to start becoming automatic. Are y'all getting it? Are y'all getting this? Guys, here's the punchline. Broke is not about eggs or gas. Broke is a mindset. It's a mindset, right? It's a scarcity mindset. And how many of y'all know God doesn't look at the price of gas and the price of eggs and go, oh my gosh. No, why? Because God, He has an abundant mindset. It's the cattle on 1,000 hills. And guess what? If I was created in the image of God, then am I going to look at things and allow them to be bigger than my God-given potential? No or no? Of course not. You've got to have your behavior match your belief. Are y'all getting this so far? Drop a 3 in the chat if you guys are ready for the third step in the 5-step framework for financial favor and freedom. Is anybody getting help? Drop some fire emojis down in the comments if y'all are getting this. Okay? So number 1, let me just see in the comments. Let's do a quick recap. What's the first thing you need to have unlocked if you desire financial favor and financial freedom? Talk to me in the comments. Belief, right? Now that you have your belief changed and your beliefs are growing, what needs to follow your belief? Let's go. The behavior, your actions, right? So now that you got your beliefs and now that your behavior is changing, guess what's going to happen as your behavior starts to change. Number 3, you got the belief, now you're changing your behaviors, and as you continue to step forward into your new behaviors, guess what's going to happen? You are going to begin to become more. Now listen, I love it. I grew up in like old school 90s, Assembly of God worship services where we'd sing these songs, come just as you are. Yeah, come as you are, but don't stay as you are. Like, you can become more, man. You can become more. I had somebody, 2 days ago, I had somebody very close to me. They pulled me aside and they said, hey, number 1, I am so happy for you. But number 2, why do you keep working? Like, you pretty much have a lot of stuff already unlocked. You don't have to work, like, if you don't want to, or you could work way less. Why do you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing? Why are you doing this? And I said, well, it's very simple. Because now it's not about money anymore. It's about potential. Like, I am chasing potential, man. Not for vanity, not for flashing on anybody, not for flexing anybody. I want to see just how far I can go in my God-given potential. And if I can submit to you, you're going to get to a point in your business where you finally have so much income coming in to where it's like, well, what do I do? Buy another mansion? What do I do? Like, go on another vacation? What do I do? Like, buy another amazing car? Like, what do I do now? Like, you literally get to a point. There's a level of financial income. And if I could be honest, I think it's roughly around $500K a year. That might be a little different, a little bit, conservative depending on where you live, maybe a little generous depending on where you live. But roughly, when you get to like $500K a year in annual income, your lifestyle doesn't change very much. It's really done. Like, well, maybe I should go buy a yacht. And then after you buy a yacht, what are you going to do? Buy another yacht? This is why people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and whoever, Oprah Winfrey and, whoever, like all these billionaire guys and gals, why do they keep working? Like, why don't they just sail off into the sunset? They already have billions of dollars. Why? Because there's a certain point that you hit in your finances. Now you have the favor, you have the freedom, and now it's just the potential, man. And the way you are going to get to that place of potential is when you change your belief and then you add behavior to your belief. The more you do it, the more you're going to begin to become the next level version of who you are. How many of you here have ever heard me talk about the framework be, do, have? Wave at me on the screen like this or drop some fire emojis. If you haven't, give me 2 minutes here and I'm going to break this idea down for you, because if you've not heard this, you need to understand it, because this is incredibly important. Watch this, okay? There is a framework that God gave us in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. And this framework, it's literally found in the very first words that God speaks over humanity. Genesis 1:26, God says it like this. It literally says, and God blessed them, talking about his very first words that he spoke over humanity. God blessed them. Okay, so first and foremost, God's main desire for people is to be blessed. And how are you going to step into the blessing? I'm glad you asked, because it's literally the next words after, and God bless them, Genesis 1:26, and then it says, and then he says to them, be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion. Watch this. God says, be fruitful, do multiply, and have dominion. See, the biggest obstacle that so many people face whenever they're pursuing and working towards their financial freedom and their financial favor is a lot of people get this backwards. A lot of people, they start with have. Oh man, it must be so nice to have all that stuff. Gosh, I wish I was rich. I can't tell you guys how many times family members or friends or, quote unquote friends, or just random old acquaintances, oh, must be nice to be rich. Wow, Rick, must be nice. You know what it is? Not to flex, but because you're only looking at the have, but you didn't consider all that I had to do in order to get here. And guess what? In order for me to have done what I've done, I had to become somebody else. Are y'all getting this? If you're taking notes, write it down like this. I must become more. No, I'm not talking about like, God says you're just enough. Yes, you as a human soul, like every human has infinite intrinsic value as a human soul. You as a human soul, you are enough, yes. But your potential, God desires, we see it in Genesis 1:26, to see you blessed. And the way that you're going to unlock the next level of blessing is to become more so that you can do the stuff easier and do more stuff so that you can have what God has called you to have. Can I break it down even further for y'all? Someone in the comments say, break it down, Uncle Rick. Watch this, okay? So watch this, okay? Oops, there we go. The Bible tells us that King Solomon would speak parables of wisdom, and he would talk about insects, birds, trees. He would break down all these wisdom insights through parts of creation. And what I'm going to do right quick is I'm going to break down some wisdom for you on the be, do, have model that we find in Genesis 1:26. I'm going to break it down for you by giving you an analogy of a tree. Watch this, okay? Let me ask you down in the comments, it's not a trick question, which way does a tree grow? Talk to me in the comments. Which way does a tree grow? Someone said up, 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 up. Yes, but watch this. Not only does a tree grow up, but a tree also grows down. Okay? Now here's how it works, okay? So many people, they love to see the fruit on the tree. Oh my goodness, she is just crushing it at life. Wow, Rick is so lucky. Oh my goodness, look at him, look at her, look at all that fruit on the top of the tree. Wow, must be nice. But here's the problem. When you start with the have, you can't start with having first because you have not become the person that is worthy to have because you have not done the stuff that is required to have because you have not yet become. Like guys, here's how it works, okay? The roots, this is the becoming, right? Putting those roots down. And I teach this a lot, but whenever a tree grows down, okay, the downward growth of the tree is called the gravitrophic growth, okay? So in other words, the roots are growing down. It's gravitrophic, so they're growing down, okay? How many of y'all know that it's really hard to grow down because it's cold, it's damp, it's dark, nobody sees any fruit. You're just sitting there grinding, putting in the work. You're just sitting there developing yourself. Nobody knows what's going on. You're working on the mindset. You're working on your business, but nothing, like the fruit hasn't happened yet, and you're just growing down, growing down. Can I tell y'all something? It was years and years and years and years of me and my wife growing down long before we ever were able to grow up. Now people see like, oh, wow, that must be cool. Wow. Yeah, but you guys didn't see the gravitrophic growth. So here's the thing. The roots, this is become, right? Be. What stabilizes all of the growth? I'm glad you asked. It's the doing. Because here's the punchline. The more you can become, the easier it is to do the stuff. How many of you here have ever learned a skill? The first day you tried the skill, it was super hard, but you did it so many times, now you could do it in your sleep. Wave at me in a screen like this. Yes? Everybody here. Guess why that happened? Because you purpose, I am going to become the kind of person that can do this thing. And the more I do the thing, the easier it's going to get. And guess what? The easier the work gets, the more fruit you can now have. Be fruitful, do multiply, and have dominion in that order. Become more so that you can do more, so that you can have more. In fact, if you're taking notes, I say it like this. When you become who God has called you to become, then you can do what God has called you to do. And the more you do what God's called you to do, then you can have what God has called you to have. Are y'all getting this? Drop some fire emojis down in the comments if y'all are getting this, if the light bulbs are coming off. So the first thing you need is you need to grow your belief. The second thing you need is to add behavior to your new belief system, okay? Now that your behavior is changing, every day as you're putting in repetition on that behavior, you are going to begin to become more, right? If you're ready for step number 4 in the 5-step framework, drop a 4 in the chat and let's keep going here, guys. So you got the belief, then you got the behavior, right? Then you're becoming more. So what do you do now that you're becoming? I'm glad you asked. You point that becoming into your business. If you're taking notes, write this down. Ecclesiastes 5 verse 3, I talk about it many times. Ecclesiastes 5 verse 3, it says this: the dream comes through much business. It doesn't say the dream comes through much prayer. That's awesome. Keep praying. I prayed for you guys. Me and my whole team actually prayed for you guys this week. Okay. It doesn't say the dream comes through much hoping. That's awesome. Obviously, you know, faith still remains, hope still remains, right? Like, yes, keep hoping. But if you have a God-given dream to do something amazing for you or your family or for your church or for the missions team or to rescue the orphans or to build the orphanages or to do the philanthropy, blah, 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 whatever it is, the dream comes through much business. It is my conviction that God, and I learned this from the Jews actually. A number of years ago, I'm in Israel and I learned a lot about business, God's way, from the Jewish culture. And in the Jewish culture, it's really interesting because there's a number of people in the Jewish community who are very, very, very wealthy. Why? Because almost everybody who is a Jew in Israel has a business. Whether it's a bread making business or whether it's a security business, whether it's a shoe making business, whether it's a technology business, like everybody in the culture has a business because they understand the dream comes through much business. And in order for you to see your God-given dreams come to pass, now that you have your belief, now that your behavior is changing, now that you're becoming more, what should I do with all this potential? In my opinion, you should start building a business because God has not called you just to be a priest only. He's also called you to be a king or a queen. It's not just worship and prayer. Yes, that is the crux. That is the pinnacle. That is like the foundation. Yes, I am a worshiper first. I am a priest unto God first forever. Rick Pino. But I'm not just a priest. I am a king as well. My wife is a queen as well. And the way that we move into that kingly and queenly anointing, however you say, king and queen anointing, is you break out of this idea of like, God, I need another miracle. No. You need to learn how to change your belief, change your behavior, become more, and then build your business so that you can become the miracle. If you're taking notes, write it down like this. You can have what you desire, and this is just facts, okay? You can have basically anything that you desire in roughly 5 years, but you have to first know what it is, and you have to aim at it. Like for so many people, they're like, oh, I just want to be rich. What does that mean? Well, I just want to have just enough to finally be comfortable. What does that mean? Like, get very, very clear on your goals so that you can actually have something to aim at. My wife and I, we're always setting goals, and we've had a big goal for a long time, and this year, we're hitting that goal, like for the first time in years. It's been a big dream of ours, and guess what? Because we were clear on the target, we've been pointing at this target for years and years and years, and now this year, It's finally getting unlocked for us. But it wouldn't have happened if we were just like, well, we just flippantly like, well, hopefully God just helps us be wealthy. What does that mean? You've got to take all of this potential, all of this becoming, and you have to point it into business. And then with that business, set up goals, set up targets so you can actually point that thing at something so you can actually achieve what you desire. And that's the biggest problem that so many people have is they think they know what they want, but they don't actually know what they want. Something really, really interesting. If you're taking notes, write it down like this. Ecclesiastes 11 verse 2. It says this: invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8, because you do not know what disaster may come upon the land. What does that mean? When you begin to become more and you start growing into the next level version of your God-given potential, and you start pointing this potential into your business, you're going to start making profits. Like, that's just how it works. And when you're like, well, what do I do with all these profits? Should I go buy a cool car? Should I waste it on, jewelry or blah, blah? All that stuff is fine. But before you do any of that, you should invest into 7 ventures. Yes, into 8. Like, you should continue to invest. I believe the first venture you should invest into, Solomon here is telling us invest into 7. Yes, eventually, eventually invest into 8. But the first place that you should invest any kind of profit or good debt, in my opinion, is in your education, period. You've got to invest in your skills, man. Because here's the thing. Like, what if the 7 or 8 investments that you invested into, this is what me and my wife did, okay? I invested into digital marketing. This is the very first online skill that I learned like 12 years ago. That was venture number 1 that I invested into, right? Then venture number 2, I learned ads. That was another thing that I invested into. And then after that, I learned generalized marketing, not just digital marketing. I learned marketing in general. And then I learned sales. I paid a mentor for this. I paid a mentor for this. I paid a mentor for this. And I started investing into 7, yes, into 8 ventures. Now you might be sitting here going like, geez, man, how does Rick know this stuff? How does he have a team? How are they doing this thing? They're making millions of dollars. It's because I literally invested into 7, yes, 8 ventures. And for me in the early days, those were skills. I literally changed my belief, changed my behavior. I became more. I pointed that towards a business, and then I used the profits from business to invest first and foremost into myself. And then after you start investing into yourself and you start growing all this fruit, now you can even make investments into actual things like whatever, real estate or to blah, 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 or this or that. Are you guys seeing this? Like, financial freedom and financial favor is a simple framework, man. It's just a simple framework. And if you can apply this framework to your journey, it's going to make achieving that financial freedom and that financial favor way easier for you. Okay, are you guys getting this so far? So as you become more, what do I do with all this potential? Grow your business with it. Go serve some people. Go make an offer, because the offer you don't make is the offer they can't take. Go have a solution to your market's have an obvious solution to your market's obvious problem. Go solve some problems for people and say, hey, if you desire to have your problem solved, it's going to cost you X, Y, Z. And people are going to go, oh my gosh, thank you. So I've been praying for this. Like, guys, that's something that I hear all the time. Golly, Rick, this is an answer to prayer. Thank you. And then they pay me. Wow, man, I've been praying for something like this. I had a dream. I was praying, and then all of a sudden you popped up in my feed. Oh, thank God. And then they pay me. That doesn't happen every time. But guys, whenever you have an obvious solution to your market's obvious problem, you take that potential to build your business. Now you become the answer to people's prayer, and they have no problem paying you. Then your business can flourish, and then the fruit on the top of the tree can begin to grow and grow and grow. Are y'all getting it? So now we've got our belief. We've got our behavior. We've become more. Now we're taking this potential and we're growing our business. What do we do from here? I'm glad you asked. If you're ready for step number 5 in the framework, drop a 5 in the chat and let's talk about it. And step number 5 is this, guys. What do you do now? Let's just imagine that you're 5 years, 10 years down the road, and you're exactly where you desire to be in your finances, in your business. You have financial freedom. You've unlocked financial favor for you, your children. What do you do now? I'm glad you asked. You pass the baton. If you're taking notes, write it down like this. You must start thinking bigger than yourself. Why are so many people in patterns of poverty and cycles of scarcity? Because they're only focused on themselves. Oh man, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. Oh, the price of gas, the price of eggs. Oh man, everything is so expensive. I can't afford it, blah, blah. Yeah, like when you are focused on your own problems, how are you going to be focusing on solving problems for anybody else and charging them to solve that problem? That doesn't go very, very well together. You have got to start dreaming bigger for yourself. That's why I love 5 years ago, my sweet, amazing 80-year-old therapist said, why don't you change your perspective? And instead of you feeling like a burden you have to take care of everybody, why don't you start thinking of it differently as a privilege, as a goal? What if I get to take care of everybody? Like, start thinking bigger than yourself. Like one of the goals that my wife and I have right now is we're working on one of our targets past this one we're working on now is how can we turn every single person in our family into a millionaire? And guys, we're going to do it. We're absolutely going to do it. Like when you get a bigger vision than yourself, the craziest thing happens. It's almost like God says, aha, you're getting it. You're getting it. Like think of any parents here. Wave at me if you're in the screen like this, if you're a parent. Let me ask you a question. If you have 2 kids, okay, and one kid is stingy, right? They're trying to learn how to share. And the other kid is generous with everything you give them. You're going to have an easier time telling the stingy kid, no. Mom, can I blah, blah, blah. Dad, can I? No, buddy. No, girl. Look, no, not this time. Let's talk about. And the kid who's generous with everything, Mom, can I blah, blah. Dad, can I? Sure, buddy. Hey, anything for you, sis. Why? Because that's how it also works with God. If you're just stingy, like focus on yourself, like why would God want to entrust more to you? Because all you're going to do is be stingy with it. Like when you start getting a bigger vision than yourself, man, it opens up favor for God to entrust more to you. If you're taking notes, write it down like this. Proverbs 13:22. Proverbs 13:22, it says, a righteous man or woman leaves an inheritance for their children's children. If you're taking notes, write it down like this. Just enough isn't good enough for a righteous man. Hey! Just enough isn't good enough for a righteous man. Why? Because if all you have is just enough, how are you going to take care of anybody else? We're not that concerned about money. We're not that greedy. We just want to have just enough to be comfortable. Really? How are you going to take care of your children and your children's children? I'm trying to be righteous. And the Bible says a righteous man or woman leaves an inheritance for their children's children. Well, Rick, that's talking about prayer. Maybe, and yes, we should leave a spiritual inheritance, but I submit to you the next part of the verse. It says, a righteous man leaves an inheritance for the children's children. And then the next part of the verse says, and the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. It's literally talking about money, guys. Yes, you should leave a spiritual inheritance. Yes, you should leave that kind of inheritance. But guys, those of us who can get a bigger vision than ourselves, and we start dreaming not just for one generation, not just for 2 generations, but you got to start dreaming for at least 3 generations, minimum. Well, it just seems so overwhelming, like I'm barely trying to get there for myself. Yes, because guess what? You have to become more first. You have to get the belief that it's even possible. Then you have to change your behaviors. Then you have to become more. And the more you become, you can point that potential into your business. And as your business grows, then you can start storing up to pass the baton. Guys, this is the 5-step financial freedom, financial favor framework. And I'm telling you this, if you have the desire to see financial freedom and favor unlocked in your life, you don't need another miracle. You don't need another moment of inspiration. You don't need more motivation. You need discipline, you need systems, and you need frameworks. Because systems and principles and frameworks are God's success automation. What does that mean? It means when you have principles, frameworks, and systems in place, success becomes automatic for you.